USA Ultimate is proud to present the 2016 USA Ultimate College National Championship. And this is the women's semifinal number 1, the 13th seed Virginia Hydra and the 5th seed Whitman Sweets from Walla Walla, Washington. We are live at the WRAL Soccer Park here in Raleigh. It has been a weekend full of upsets in the top half of the bracket. 2 teams that aren't even in the top 4, and then the defending championship game from last year. Last year it was Oregon over Stanford. Superfly looking to get revenge against Fugue later today. Hi everybody, great to have you with us. Evan Lepler, delighted to be alongside Ian Toner, and what a weekend it has been, full of upsets. Here we are in the Final Four. We got the 13 seed and the 5 seed. How has this happened?
It's hard to believe that a high seed or being a favorite has meant anything this weekend. I think these 2 teams have relied on a fearless attitude and some energy and exuberance and the depth of their rosters to get themselves here.
Well, parity has increased. We're learning to expect the unexpected. And the University of Virginia got a trademark win yesterday, knocking off the University of Oregon, the defending champs. They don't have Alika Johnston anymore, but they're deeper, and they're wondering what might have been last year if they didn't all get sick before the quarterfinals.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate, but I think this time around, this team has a newfound confidence and reliance on their entire roster. Some of their more senior leaders, Amy Wedmore, Brogan Jones, and Rebecca Meeker, have made plays for them on both sides of the disc.
Well, it was a year ago on Saturday night that Rebecca Meeker found herself in the hospital. Several members of UVA was struck by some kind of virus. They still don't know what happened. This year she's healthy and she's been great.
She's been taking on some of the biggest matchups on the field all weekend. She has a fearless confidence about her. She's been leading on both sides of the disc, and I'm looking forward to seeing her make some big plays today.
We'll see if University of Virginia can get all the way to the championship game. And the Whitman Sweets, they have dreams of being in the title game as well. A very small school in Walla Walla, Washington, but their Callahan nominee, Ari Lozano, has led the way. And this is a team that has great confidence.
Absolutely. They've kind of been the little sister of the Northwest, battling the older sisters of UBC and Oregon, and they finally found themselves here in the spotlight. They're ready to take on the challenge.
They have a tremendous star in Claire Revere, incredible speed, international experience. What should we expect to see from her?
I think Claire is someone who's going to be unfazed by the big lights and the stage and the challenges of the semifinal setting. Expect her to be composed and explosive on both sides of the disc.
We're expecting some rain, but our enthusiasm is not dampened at all. Semifinal Sunday here in Raleigh, Virginia and Whitman to get us started when we come back. The 2016 USA Ultimate College Championships are presented by Discraft Ultrastar, the official disc of USA Ultimate. Discraft Ultrastar now available at over 1,900 U.S. retail locations, including all Dick's Sporting Goods and Hibbett stores. By 5 Ultimate, apparel made specifically for Ultimate players by Ultimate players. Visit 5ultimate.com for everything from Discraft Ultrastars to jerseys, shorts, and custom team uniforms. And by USA Ultimate, the national governing body for the sport of Ultimate in the United States. For more information or to find out where to play in your area, visit usaultimate.org. Great footage from our drone camera here in Raleigh. Starting lineup for the 13th seed Virginia, Hannah Meeker, Kayla Strick, she's one to watch, along with Sarah Arbus, the captain Amy Wedmore, Kelly Ross, very lethal with her throws, and Tess Warner. For the head coach in his 6th season, David Allison. He's assisted by Elliot Isaac and Nada Tremonte. For the Whitman Sweets, led by Jeremy Norden, alongside Ben McGinn. They both commute from Portland back to Walla Walla to coach this team. No one scored more goals than Marlena Sloss this week. We talked about Revere, Ari Lozano, the experienced Callahan nominee for the Sweets. Whitman will be in the white, Virginia in the blue, ready to receive. A year ago, Ian, both these teams lost in the quarters. In 2016, one of these teams will play for a championship tomorrow. Virginia on the first offensive point, centering the disc to Wedmore. And the thing that has stood out all weekend long about this Virginia team has been their incredible patience with the disc. And there's a nice D running through underneath. Claire Revere knocks it down for the game's first turnover.
Just as you say that, Evan, you know, Virginia's always taken the patient, smart look. Haven't forced any throws so far today. But it looked like Revere just got the better of her matchup on that in-cut.
The Sweets in search of the opening break. Brenna Bailey looks up line to the end zone, and it's caught. Nina Finley hauls it in, and Whitman with a fantastic start.
You know, that started out as kind of a broken down dump set, but the thrower kind of stuck with her, put that trust throw up into space. As you'll see this hang, Kelly Ross on Virginia almost getting there, but Finley, who actually came to this program after playing at Ohio State for a year, is able to make the play for Whitman and give them a break to start this game.
The Sweets have not lost this weekend here in Raleigh. Their closest game was against the top seed in their pool, Central Florida, and should be no surprise this weekend that the top seed didn't advance too far, because top seeds, it's been not a good thing to be the favorite this weekend.
I think the story in this pool has to be the depth. You look at, you commented on how tight their matchup against Central Florida was. That's a team that runs an 8-woman, 9-woman rotation. And that's very challenging to sustain and keep up throughout the longevity of a very demanding tournament.
Well, right now, the conditions aren't too bad for ultimate. Comfortable temperature. The rain could fluctuate between light and torrential throughout the day.
Worth noting that that's very different from the conditions we've had the last 2 days, though. On Friday, we had blistering heat with a little bit of wind. Saturday, things were hot once again, but the wind relented a little bit. And the rain and moisture today is presenting a new challenge for the throwers and receivers on the field.
Basically every weather challenge except extreme wind or ice this weekend here in Raleigh. But yeah, the heat was sweltering the past couple of days. Here's Meeker up line and just out of the reach of Kelly Ross. Ari Lozano picks up the disc. Lozano, a product of that Seattle youth scene, and Meeker got a hand on it. Virginia almost in the red zone again.
I was speaking with Coach Ben McGinn before the game started, and he said one of Whitman's keys was coming out hot and capitalizing on every opportunity they had.
Virginia ties it up. Janie Mockrish, the grad student.
Nice continuation there from Kayla Strick. Not afraid to look immediately to the break side. A nice inside shot. The Virginia offense loves that throw, that soft inside-out lane break. And Kayla Strick just throws that to Mockrish with confidence. And to get back to the earlier comment about Ben McGinn's thoughts, you know, that's the first break opportunity that Whitman has not converted. They got the disc in that first point, but weren't able to punch it in on this one. They're going to want to continue to bring that defensive energy and value the disc on the turn to get off to that hot start that they need.
First goal for Janie Mockrish for UVA Hydra. And we asked David Allison, the head coach for Virginia, what was your expectation coming into the tournament? You're the 13th seed, you're the 4th seed in your pool. And he said point blank, we expected to win the tournament. Now, he knew they had to play a great tournament to do that. And so far, they've been great.
They've been patient. They've trusted their system. They haven't placed any reliance on hero ball or single players to do too much. I think it's a testament to the success of team sports and people buying into a system.
Well, they've found their identity without last year's Callahan Award winner Alika Johnston, who at times did everything for this team, especially last year when the team got sick and she felt even more of a burden of responsibility on her shoulders. Whitman on offense for the first time. Revere bids and scores. That's what she's capable of.
And if we can go back to just when this throw went up, you'll see that Revere was in the middle of a double cut, perhaps starting to come back in. She changed direction, realized that the throw was up, and you'll see here they're just make up the ground. That's the kind of speed and explosiveness that Claire Revere is known for, and that she's used to become one of the top women's players in the college division.
A spectacular catch. Not at all surprised she made that play. We've seen her do it in club with Seattle Mixtape in the Northwest, and for her college team, she has been a staple of these past few seasons. And a good throw from Alex Hardesty, the junior from Boise, Idaho. One of the things about Whitman, it's a small liberal arts school, and they have players from all around the country coming to Walla Walla.
Yeah, they're very active in their recruiting efforts. I think another thing that helps them is their proximity to the great ultimate scene up in Seattle.
Sure.
They've been able to recruit a number of girls from the Seattle Fries program, a number of girls who are generally from that area and have Junior Worlds level experience. And that gives you an advantage because you have players coming into your program with ultimate IQ, with disc skills that other programs have to teach and spend time working on.
The mark put on quickly. Virginia, more than any other team in the women's division, has relied on this fundamental dump swing. May not be the most exciting ultimate, but they've ridden it to the semifinals.
And you'll see that cut there. The receiver cut very wide to the fourth side lane.
Nina Finley got a hand on the disc and canceled that throw from Virginia. Lozano picks up and launches. She wants Marlena Sloss. Off the fingertips. And Virginia dodges a bullet there. But perhaps a call, and they'll discuss it. Foul was called on the field. And it looks like there was certainly contact as Sarah Arbus.
Looking at that replay in slow motion, I do think Arbus made contact with Sloss's right forearm. I think Sloss does have a valid argument here.
Now, if this is your first time seeing Ultimate, the observers are the moderators of the game. They are Hank Carey, Kate Monforti, Linda Kudo, and Julie Morris, and they have, it looks like, ruled no foul. This is your first time seeing Ultimate, though. They do not have the full power of referees, although they do make active calls on whether the disc is inbounds or out of bounds, or in the end zone or out of the end zone. But the players call their own fouls, and if there's a dispute, the observers can step in.
You see on that turnover, Evan,
hammer to the end zone, through the grasp, and the disc a little damp. That type of thing can happen.
Virginia loves taking their four side cuts out very wide, giving them the opportunity to plant about 10 yards in front of the thrower and come back for that inside lane throw. We've seen it a lot earlier. It's a lot more effective once they're in the middle of the field and not quite as close to the sideline.
Poach D from Hardesty. She shoots it for the goal, and there it is. The Sweets take a 3-1 lead. And in the end zone that time, Caitlin Scott. There are 3 sets of sisters on the Whitman Sweets, a pair of twins. And Caitlin Scott with her sister, Lindsay. Caitlin a sophomore, Lindsay a senior. And Virginia gave Whitman a lot of chances on this point, Ian.
Yeah, Whitman certainly thought they had locked up the break right there before that hammer went through their hands. And Virginia, thinking they've got space downfield, just kind of throwing into a heads-up defender. As Whitman cashes in the break there, their D-line offense is known for running and gutting, striking quickly, when they've got more field to work with, not being afraid to use that deep lane and take the deep shots right away.
Timeout call by Virginia gives us a minute to talk about how Whitman got here. And over the course of pool play, there are so many stories from a team standpoint, from an individual standpoint, way too many for us to mention. But Whitman began on Friday against Wisconsin, won 15-10 against Robin Wiseman's Belladonna team. Then against Central Florida, which was an incredible finish. They were down, I think, 8-4 or 9-4 in that game, come back to win 11-10 against a very talented but not a very deep Central Florida team. And from there, wins over Ottawa and Texas. They beat University of British Columbia this morning in the quarterfinals.
That Central Florida game was perhaps the biggest test that Whitman has faced all weekend. They found themselves in a big hole. They had an opponent that was relatively fresh at the beginning of the tournament, and they just had to lock down defensively, value the disc as much as they could. And I think that kind of experience is going to give them confidence going forward.
Whitman has been smiling all weekend. They are perfect, and they've taken 3 of the first 4 points here in the semifinals. Goodness, that Central Florida team was fascinating from so many different angles. They may have had 3 or 4 of the 15 most talented individual women's players in the entire field, but they only had 8 or 9 players available to play, and that really was their undoing.
You know, especially in the conditions that these players were facing the last 2 days, when it was much hotter and your average point becomes that much more taxing, running such a tight rotation can definitely be a downfall.
You and I were worn out from just walking around the complex.
Absolutely.
Let alone being cleated up and giving everything you've got. Virginia on the brink. Stall count rising on Wedmore. And it's knocked away in the end zone by Whitman.
I believe Laura Landis might be calling a foul here on Ari Lozano. Great pressure on that upline cut. As we get another look at this, Wedmore trying to throw it to space.
Yep, the call was rescinded. Looked like Lozano got the disc first. Now, she did make contact with her after the contact with the disc.
Finley throwing that a second late.
Floating beautifully. Just shy of the end zone, caught by Sloss. She's the little engine that could for this Whitman team, and the Sweets lead it 4-1, quickly capitalizing on the deep shot. Another assist for Revere.
That's what Whitman's going to do when they get the disc. They're going to look for that quick upline cut, get themselves in power position, and we see Nina Finley with no fear ripping this deep for Marlena Sloss, who had 16 goals on the weekend coming into this game. Not able to get into the end zone there. But UVA needs to be well aware and protect that deep space after they turn the disc over.
Lindsay Scott and her sister Caitlin have scored the last 2 goals for the Sweets, and their head coach Jeremy Norden. Both Norden and McGinn are Whitman alums and certainly have bought into this program. They graduated in 2012 and have basically been coaching nonstop ever since. And Whitman College has put great resources into their program. The Sweets have literally flown Jeremy and Ben from Portland to Walla Walla for practice.
It's an interesting dynamic, and Ben says that he and Jeremy have been perfecting the relationship, the balance of involvement from afar, and how many practice weekends they actually need to attend, and how much advice they can give while not actually being present with the team at every single function. I think that's a really challenging job, and a testament to the balance that they've struck as they've gotten their team here to the semifinals.
You never seen Ultimate before? Here's what you should know. It's 7-on-7, the first of 15 wins, unless the game takes too long and then a time cap gets involved. We'll cover that later. Halftime is at 8. The disc can be thrown in any direction. You set a pivot foot as soon as you catch it. If you don't, a travel will be called on you. The stall count, which limits the amount of time you can hold the disc, is counted by the person on the mark who's defending you. And of course, the teams will switch sides after each score. Wind not a huge factor today, although with tropical storm, I believe now tropical depression Bonnie in the area, maybe the wind might pick up as the day goes on.
Something that the USA Ultimate staff has been monitoring closely all weekend.
They have had contingency plans, one after the other, and thankfully, right now, everything's on schedule and good to go. Virginia has not been clicking offensively. What's the issue?
I think the Whitman defenders have been particularly smart in taking poachy chances off their marks and stepping into throwing lanes where Virginia is not used to seeing defenders.
Hydra moves the disc. This is Ellie Wood, one of the few members of the UVA team that actually played in high school. Virginia, a collection of athletes who have learned to play ultimate really well together.
She had some YCC experience with players from the Southeast as Wood makes the great grab.
Tremendous layout to put the pressure on. This is what we got used to seeing from Virginia over the course of the weekend. Smooth, calm, patient offense. And clearly they have great trust with each other.
I think Nina Finley first got a piece of that throw when it came out of Tess Warner's hand. So we take a look here. She steps there for the inside break, and yes.
Yep, you're on top of it.
Another deep shot here.
Hanging in the air and knocked away. Virginia's Gianna Torrey gets there. Making up about 15 yards, playing catch up.
That's Catherine Hannum with the disc there. She's had a particularly effective weekend, kind of a coming out party of sorts against Oregon, scoring multiple goals on the way to Virginia's upset victory in pool play.
And that was Virginia's trademark win of the weekend for sure, knocking off the defending champs. But Oregon could not be denied. Their class of 50-year seniors led by Jessie Schaffner, Alex Odie, Beth Kaler. We'll see them later today. They're in the semifinals for the 5th straight year. In fact, they've been to the finals every single year. They've got as tough a semifinal test as they've ever had in a couple hours.
Amazing how this bracket has kind of shaken out and given some high power matchups earlier than we all expected.
The disc floating over the Virginia defender. Revere with another beautiful assist. Brenna Bailey the score, and the Sweets are rolling.
Claire Revere has to be the most impactful player on the field right now for Whitman. That deep shot might not have been exactly where the thrower wanted it, but Revere had enough separation to make the play, stays calm and composed on the goal line, and she's able to let her receiver work in that small space. Bailey just beating Ross up the line, and that's another break for the Whitman defense, who is off to the fiery start that McGinn said they needed.
Later today, in between the men's semifinals, they'll announce the 2016 Callahan Award winner in the women's division. A performance like this for the junior Revere could be the launching point for her 2017 Callahan campaign, because in the women's division, she's nearly unparalleled now with her speed and impact on the field.
And anyone who's been paying attention to the women's division at the club level or the international level is also familiar with her background and experience there. So definitely keep an eye on her for the year to come.
Business at hand as Whitman tries to keep it rolling. Ari Lozano to pull.
Lozano is actually this team's Callahan nominee this year. One of the rocks of their defensive unit, coming from that Seattle background.
Oh, nice grab by Meeker. Acker on the mark. Up the line to Warner and into the end zone. Virginia finding Kayla Strick to end the long run. It had been 4 straight for Whitman before that rush up the line.
You know, that's not necessarily what we're expecting to see from the UVA offense. They aren't known for their deep shots and run and gun and small margins, but we see the centering pass here and the deep shot right away to Meeker.
And usually 5 throws and they're barely off their own goal line, but here 5 throws or less to the end zone.
Nice work by Warner and Strick following the play after the huck went up to beat their matchups further downfield for those continuation passes in the goal.
Virginia was the number 4 seed in the A pool. David Allison, though, certainly had confidence. Their game against Oregon was epic. They jumped out against Fugue 3-0 and then led 8-5 at half. And you knew Oregon would make a run, and of course they did. Jesse Schaffner led Fugue to a huge comeback. They took a 13-12 lead, Oregon. And at that point, even a Virginia guy like yourself, I imagine you kind of thought, okay, this was Virginia's run. Oregon, they're the champs. And yet Virginia played like the champ in that game.
That's it. To be honest, that was exactly the thought that ran through my mind. Going into the game, I knew Virginia could punch him in the mouth. I questioned whether or not they could stick it to him for the entirety of the game. But to be honest, after they got those turns and those final few points, they treated the disc like gold and made the most of those opportunities. And that's kind of what they've been known for, and perhaps getting away from this earlier on in this game.
Well, in the conditions that the game was played in too, they forced Oregon to work so hard defensively with the slow, patient movement of the disc. It really wore Oregon out, and they're not a team that gets to experience something like that very often.
Exactly. Oregon likes to bait you into a turnover battle.
Yeah.
They're okay to take those quick shots, the free throwing creativity.
That just out of the reach of Revere, and Virginia, we'll see how much care they take on this turnover, or will they in fact get the disc?
Trying to determine if Revere thinks she got bodied illegally by the Virginia defender.
Want to go to the observer? Yeah.
All right, we're going to play it as a foul contest.
Okay. Play it as a foul contest.
So the contested foul will keep the disc with Whitman.
So in that instance, I believe the observer back there, Julie Morris, did not have the appropriate view or context to make a definitive ruling.
Time of the throw.
So in that circumstance, it's like the observers weren't here at all, and the disc goes back to the thrower.
So contested foul, disc in on 6.
I get the quick reset. This is Margot Heffron giving it up and quickly getting it back from Hardesty. Finley. We know she can launch it. What are you seeing here from this wall defense from Virginia?
This is something that I saw them use well against Oregon. It's not a true cup, as we see the deep shot go up here.
It was a beauty. Whitman connecting again and again, and Marlena Sloss, as she's been all weekend long, wide open in the end zone.
Virginia's smart. They'll put a better matchup on Sloss, someone who can keep her body between Sloss and the end zone the entire time. She's gone deep without much trouble a few times so far today.
And another assist for Brenna Bailey, the senior from Minneapolis. I mean, Whitman has showed all parts of their offense. They've played small ball, kept it around the handler core, and they've picked their spots well going deep.
They look more comfortable, and they look loose, and they look relaxed. This feels like a home game for them, perhaps.
Well, many members of their team came here on Tuesday, and I was talking to Ari Lozano, and I can't believe you're here so early. And well, part of it is we had graduation this past weekend, so it was sort of our post-graduation trip. And it was also a chance to get acclimated to both the conditions in North Carolina, the time zone. If you think about it, their quarterfinal game this morning was at 5:30 a.m. Pacific time.
And I know a number of other teams at the college level this year and at the club level in years past have made some more drastic steps in the weeks leading up to nationals. They'll get themselves up at 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. and do a pod workout to simulate the challenge of being that active that early in the morning when you're kind of trying to adjust your circadian rhythms.
These players are very committed. So far, Whitman has punished Virginia for almost every mistake. So the Wahoos have to be perfect here.
That's Laura Landis with the disc. She plays club for Texas Showdown, and Kayla Strick sends it into the end zone for the UVA hold.
Well, we've seen Virginia on its last 2 offensive points work it up the field. It looks like the offensive kinks might be solved. The question is, will they be able to generate some breaks? But what do you see here on this O point?
A lot of patience, a lot of composure, very good spacing. If you saw on that previous throw, look at how much space is wide open in front of Landis for Kayla Strick to work in. That's some great discipline and overall just wise spacing from the UVA cutters.
The goal for Driver, Rebecca Driver, the junior from Maryland. And there's Kayla Strick, just a junior herself.
And another player with no ultimate experience coming into the college scene, learning the game as many do in college and applying her natural athletic gifts to help her team.
It really is amazing, Ian, to see these college athletes, and some of them have been playing since middle school and have the throws to match that expectation. Others have been playing for a year or two. And a gal like Kristen Pajunas from UCLA, she's a top 5 Callahan nominee. She just started playing a couple years ago.
I think that is a testament to the commitment of those individual players. But as the sport has grown, whether you're looking at strategy resources, whether you're looking at training and conditioning resources, there's been an explosion of that available information for players
let
today.
her rip. And it was caught in the back corner of the end zone. Holy cow. Linnea Sue, the sophomore from Seattle, hauling in this Revere backhand.
What hasn't Claire Revere done this game for the Whitman defense or the offense? She gets a block on the first defensive point of the game for them. She's been a deep threat. She's launched it deep without fear up the break side.
Well, it's been said that when you see a layout, sometimes it means it was a bad throw. I don't know if you want to take points away from Revere for that.
Yeah, it took that mark was closing in quickly on the sideline, so it took some guts to still throw that down that lane.
Here's the look, the disc coming at you. And the extension from Linnea Sue. She's the long-haired sister. Her twin, Alyssa, much shorter hair. If you wear a number 2 on your jersey, chances are you're a twin, because Tessa James and Sophie James, sophomores, wear number 2 and number 12. Linnea Sue and her sister Alyssa wear number 22 and number 32. Number 42, by the way, is Elisa Picozzi, so she's the exception.
Okay. The Sue sisters have been known for their speed and downfield cutting ability all season long. You put them on a line or in a cutting pattern with Marlena Sloss, you've got speed, you've got deep threat capability. I think that's why this offense has proved to be so potent, whether it's on the turn or on their regular offensive unit thus far this game.
Another timeout was called there. Whitman has a chance to break and send it to the half. And you look at what Whitman did in their regional championships. Northwest D1 Regionals is a tournament comparable to Nationals in terms of the quality of the teams that are there. Over the course of the weekend, Jeremy Norden's team went 4-3. You think, okay, I mean, they're solid. They lost to Oregon twice and British Columbia once. That's why Whitman was seated behind both of those teams coming into Nationals. But to have thought that Whitman would go from that to a perfect National so far and 8 points away from Championship Monday, it's a pretty impressive surge.
I think that's an example of a team peaking at the right time. They've gone through a number of challenges throughout the year. They've been working out the kinks. And this is also not to discredit any of the success they had earlier in the year. They were at one point the #1 team in the country in the regular season.
Virginia hoping to begin its comeback here.
There's that soft IO break. That cut was set up well, and Meeker will throw that 9 times out of 10.
Meeker again. Soft touch. Wedmore with a good fake to the open side for the score. Kiara Givens was in the end zone for Virginia.
Again, in a situation, a red zone situation like this, you're normally going to see teams kind of condense themselves into a vertical stack, but all of those cutters maintained their spacing, stayed spread out in a traditional horizontal or spread offense. And that gave all of their cutters a lot of room, both vertically and, more importantly here, horizontally, to attack that open space.
We'll talk a lot about ultimate strategy throughout the weekend, but there are different trends in college ultimate every year. The sport continues to evolve. Forever it was vertical stacks and then the horizontal stack, and now you see more side stacks. Was there a theme or a trend from 2016 College Nationals that you sort of took from your time walking around the fields?
It's a great question. I was surprised to see as much zone defense as I saw given the conditions.
And not much wind.
You would expect teams to say, oh, well, you know, if there's not a lot of wind, our zone isn't going to be quite as effective. And I think that did trap some teams, but it also played to other teams' strengths who had athletic heads-up defenders who were able to respond to swings and different passes very quickly.
A team like Central Florida is letting Janina Freystadter hang out deep, and she got 20, 25 Ds per game sometimes.
Right.
By teams trying to test her, which they quickly learned was a mistake. Central Florida, an incredibly talented team that perhaps was the biggest surprise to not make the championship bracket, eliminated before pre-quarters, losing a, I believe, universe point game to Wisconsin. Whitman doing its job to represent Pool D.
Whitman being especially patient here. The UVA junky, zony look here, forcing them to be patient and move the disc horizontally before taking many downfield shots. Not moving much further past the brick so far.
Near the sideline, Revere has room. Lindsey Scott.
The Virginia defense breaking down into a man look here, but that's too late because it's a break throw to Revere.
Too little, too late, and too easy for Whitman as the Sweets take half. Claire Revere leaving her fingerprints all over that 8-4 first half for the Sweets.
Great patience here by Whitman. You know, if we could run a stop clock, they probably spent a minute or two swinging the disc back and forth until they found the perfect opening. This is what really set things up, the field switch to Revere, and she's got a nice IO shot right up the gut. And as UVA tries to transition to the person defense, the mark isn't able to be set, and Revere is wide open, capping off an explosive first half.
There were a couple drops both ways, but overall, Whitman played nearly a perfect half with very few turnovers.
They capitalized on the break, almost all of the break chances they had, and they got out to that hot start that they needed.
Well, Virginia will need to regroup. They have not been in a situation like this weekend. Of course, throughout the season, they experienced a bunch of adversity with injuries, and in one of their tournaments, they were without 3 of their top players who were all suffering from concussions. As the rain starts to fall a little bit harder now here in Raleigh.
Yeah, one of the players we saw making an impact for Virginia in the first half. And that's it for the first half here.
So Whitman leads it 8-4, and we will step aside. Virginia looking for answers. The Sweets 7 points away from a trip to the championship game. Claire Revere with a majestic shot, and Linnea Sue with a highlight of the half as Whitman leads at 8-4 at the break. The 5th seed Whitman College, 7 points away from a trip to the championship game for the first time, and this is a program that just a couple years ago was deciding whether they should play D3 or D1. They're on the verge of being one of the top 2 teams in the country. Back at the WRAL Soccer Park alongside Ian Toner, Evan Lepler, and plenty of highlights, especially for Whitman in the first half. What stood out most to you?
Claire Revere has her fingerprints all over this first half and this game so far. She got the first block of the game for her defense. She's been able to reel in diving grabs for goals, throw hucks for break goals. She's done absolutely everything the team has asked of her and more.
It really set the tone, and Revere, an all-region player, she's going to win a lot more awards over the course of her career if she plays like this. And it was the short game and the deep game, and you see the speed from Revere.
And what's amazing about that highlight, she was cutting in at the time that throw went up and was able to change direction and make that incredible grab.
The score was 1-1, and then defensive plays like that from Ari Lozano helped the Sweets go on a 4-0 run. They were up 5-1 and basically traded the rest of the way to make it 8-4.
Yeah, the Virginia offense started to settle into a little bit of a rhythm towards the middle or second portion of that first half. Ultimately, Whitman capitalizing on the mistakes, giving their team a large margin here at halftime.
So Virginia with some work to do. It was just kind of a helter-skelter half for Hydra. They never looked as comfortable as they did throughout pool play, and they certainly were tested in their quarterfinal game earlier today against Dartmouth, another team we should spend some time talking about for what they did this weekend. A great layout there from Sue, and then Revere just so calm and composed out there.
This is not the first time she's been in a semifinal or a major national or international setting, for that matter. She's played in big games with Team USA and Seattle Mixtape, and I think that's fueling her confidence, making her feel very comfortable on this field.
Revere with 5 points in the half. Virginia spreading out the disc. We expected that, but Whitman with an 8-4 lead at the break, and Virginia certainly with ground to make up. And Whitman head coach Jeremy Norden joins us now down on the field. Jeremy, heck of a first half. What impressed you most about the way you guys played?
the energy we came out with right from the first pole, that was what really helped fire us up and carry us through that half. And we're definitely happy to be 8-4, but we got a lot of more work to do. We're going to get our energy back up to match that same level that we had first pole of the game.
Anything your team feels like you need to do different defensively here in this second half?
I think defensively we'll change up our looks a little bit, but I think clearly what we did got some breaks, but we need to keep that pressure, make them think a little bit extra. So we'll keep transitioning between our different sets, but we'll definitely throw some of what we did in the first half.
Jeremy, you're far from a one-girl team. With that said, Claire Revere was the one star that really shined brightest in that first half. What has it been like watching her grow as a player these past couple of years?
It's been amazing to see Claire grow at Whitman and see her come out of the Seattle youth scene. We remember her when she was a middle schooler at the Seattle youth camps, and she's a leader on any team that she's on, and clearly helped carry us through that first half. But we have a ton of stars all around her, and we had an amazing grab by Linnea in the end zone, and just countless deep cuts and players playing really unselfishly, which is a big part of our team. The more that we can buy in and play as a team together, the more fun we're going to have, and we generally do better when we're having fun.
Real quick, Jeremy, how are the conditions down there on the field?
It's a little bit wet, but this is nothing for the West Coast. So we're used to the rain, we're used to the wind. We can't control that, so we call that obviously not controllable. And we're going to play our game no matter what.
Earlier, Ian said it was like you guys are playing at home. You're so confident. It feels like home with the rain. Good luck in the second half, Jeremy. Thanks for joining us. Jeremy Norden, the head coach of Whitman. He's been at the helm since he graduated playing for the men's team in 2012. The first women's semifinal continues in a moment here on ESPN. Semifinal Sunday here at USA Ultimate College Nationals. Virginia and Whitman at the half. The Sweets lead Hydra by 4. Later today, we'll see Stanford and Oregon, a rematch of last year's championship game. Second half between Hydra and the Sweets coming up next.
Go, 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 go.
Virginia Hydra trailing by 4 as we get set to start the second half. You wouldn't know it from looking at the energy from the sidelines, and I bet that was a point of emphasis from head coach David Allison. Positivity, you see it throughout the women's game and really throughout Ultimate, but when you're down, that can be what brings you back, and we'll see if it works for Virginia.
You need a strong sideline, you need energy, you need belief and confidence, and that's where that's going to start.
The Sweets in the white. They finished 3rd in the Northwest Regional Championships behind Oregon and British Columbia. But they knocked off UBC in the quarterfinals to get here. It was a tough weekend for the Thunderbirds. They really battled through the conditions. Mira Donaldson and Kate Scarth, the leaders of that team, along with the legendary Jeff Cruikshank, who was coaching them this year. Hanging in the air and hauled in.
No surprise to see Sloss making that catch.
Bailey with another assist. Marlena Sloss the score.
If you're the Virginia defense, I feel like you've got to be somewhat happy with that point. You forced them to put up what was roughly a 50-50 ball, as we see Lozano float that perhaps more than she wanted to. 2 defenders in the area, but Sloss, the experienced and confident deep receiver, she's going to come down with that more times than she won't.
Marlena Sloss was very close to playing soccer at Whitman, but at the last minute was convinced to play Ultimate instead, and what a pickup she has been for the Sweets. Lindsay Scott for Whitman played a year at soccer at Whitman and then went to the Ultimate side, and Kalia Acker, another transfer from another sport. She was a volleyball player and played for the Whitman volleyball team before joining the Ultimate. So they've mixed in the athletes well to become more explosive.
I think that's something you're starting to see more and more throughout the college game, whether you're looking at the women's division or even the men's division. Take a look at, for instance, the Wisconsin Hodags. Ross Barker tried out for and made the Wisconsin the Wisconsin Badgers football team as a wide receiver. When he went through the physical, they found out that he had an enlarged aorta and ultimately couldn't do it and couldn't play on the team. But you're seeing more and more of these players with other sport backgrounds coming over to Ultimate in their college careers.
It speaks to the athleticism of Barker, and well, for Wisconsin, the first 2 days of the tournament could not have gone any better, and they ran into a tough matchup with a two-time champ this decade, Pittsburgh, in the quarterfinals on the showcase field. And the Hodags denied a trip to the semifinals after steamrolling through their pool.
Another junky look here from the Sweets women. Virginia handlers staying patient.
Is it hard to stay patient when you're down by 5?
Absolutely. There's that sense of urgency that I need to start making more progress to instill confidence in my team and get my team back in it. And being able to maintain that discipline and take it one throw at a time becomes more and more challenging the closer and closer you get to the soft cap.
Tumbling over, Wedmore has possession. Landis. Wedmore. Stall count rising on Arbus. And is that incidental contact or was it a foul? It could go either way. Landis got tangled up.
And the Whitman defender won't contest that foul. It's going to be Landis's disc. Excuse me, the disc will stay with the other Virginia offensive player.
Yeah, I think it was contested apparently. They go back to the thrower and Virginia capitalizes quickly. So Hydra on the board here in the second half. Kayla Strick scores her second goal of the game.
And whereas on some of UVA's other offensive points, we saw them stick with the kind of spread offense, horizontal look well into the red zone. On this point here, they kind of condensed into that vertical stack earlier and let the handlers run some weaving motions, and ultimately that dump swing set up the score to Strick.
So Virginia back within 4. Landis very impactful, touching the disc several times on that last point. And Kayla Strick, what has she meant to this team this weekend?
She's been one of the more fearless players on this roster. She took the Jessie Schaffner matchup multiple times in the Oregon game.
Not an easy task.
Not something that many girls would sign up for. And ultimately,
or guys for that matter.
With the way Jessie plays, absolutely. Kayla is almost that aggressive automatic reset. If it's stall 6, you're not sure where you're going to go with the disc. Nobody's open. Kayla can just make a powerful cut to the fore side, and more often than not, she'll win her matchup and be able to be that release valve for the offense as well.
So the question now, what will we see from this Virginia defense? They have not generated a break yet in the game. And it speaks to Whitman's execution on the offensive side of the disc, and also Virginia not creating the type of pressure they'd like. And I think offsides was called here. You can get away with offsides once without a penalty. After that, there's more severe consequences. So we will have a do-over on the pull.
Back to your original question, Evan. I would be surprised to see Virginia go into some kind of person look. I think they're most comfortable when they're running that zony, junky look where they've got a flat mark in the middle and 2 people kind of poaching off in the throwing lanes. That being said, to your point, they haven't notched any breaks so far, but I'm not sure that a simple person scheme is going to play in their favor when you've got some downfield juggernauts like Revere and Sloss.
I think the athleticism might be too much. Sophie James dumps it off. This is Heffron. Back to James. And underneath for Sloss. Up the line, Revere.
Virginia staying with that junky look, just trying to clog the throwing lanes and force a lot of horizontal disc movement.
Now you're always giving up something. That throw sails away. Virginia was allowing the easy reset while clogging the downfield lanes, and well, for the first time, Whitman a little impatient.
And that's kind of what that banks on. That scheme, you know, let's test your patience and see just how many times you're willing to take that safe option before you finally give in and need to take a look into a tighter space.
Virginia moving the disc side to side. Meeker.
And again, that soft
Overthrew.
IO cut.
Overthrew Hannum there to turn it over. And the launch.
Can Meeker get this back?
Rebecca Meeker intercepts the deep shot. Some of Virginia's best offense today has been in transition.
And it's interesting, maybe that just gives them less time to think about what they're doing and just get into the flow of things and let the offense come naturally.
And that disc hits the turf. And there was no call. Revere's taking off. No one's going with her. Claire Revere just shy of the end zone. And the Sweets with another break.
I'm not sure what the Virginia backfield was thinking here right after the turnover. Tess Warner and Claire Revere were marking up on each other, and Warner just kind of let Revere take off, and no one went with her. Typically, that would be Warner's responsibility, and Revere was just uncontested deep. Something we've seen multiple times so far this game.
Hardesty to Bailey to cap the point. Not a break, it was an offensive point, but it reaffirms the 5-score lead. And Virginia takes a timeout. A tall task ahead for Hydra. But there's nothing to save yourself for in a game like this. You know, if you're down 10-5 in pool play and you got a game in 3 hours, you think about changing your strategy, opening up your roster a little bit. No such patience now. It's urgency.
Yeah, you're not saving your legs for anything. And to be honest, I think with Virginia's style of play, I don't know that they are built to go on huge runs or make huge comebacks. They like to keep themselves in the fight from the outset and, you know, make incremental progress throughout the game with the way their systems and schemes work.
University of Virginia, the marquee win in pool play to knock off Oregon. They got the bye into quarters, and Dartmouth Princess layout gave Virginia all it had. And you know, Dartmouth, one of the stories of the tournament, knocking off UBC in the first game on Friday morning on Universe Point, and the efforts of both Angela Zhu and Jacqueline Verjou, they were astounding to watch.
That's got to be the toughest 5 seed in this entire tournament in either division.
In the history of nationals.
And you know, part of that is due to their relative lack of success in the regular season. Jacqueline Verjou was dealing with concussions and injuries and unable to contribute. And then she comes and gets healthy just in time for nationals and wreaks havoc on the competition. She was playing almost every point, always open, able to play center field and get to discs she had no business getting to.
Speaking of Callahan candidates for 2017, I'm not sure if they'll nominate a sophomore.
Right.
But if they do, I'm not sure there's anyone more talented. And Verjou was so much fun to watch. Dartmouth did not have great depth, but they made some incredible plays against some very experienced teams. And the game with Virginia was back and forth. You were watching it, and it was anyone's game.
Yeah, both teams were trading, you know, little 2 and 3 break runs all the way down to the final few points. Virginia was ultimately
patient enough to hang on and seal the victory in those final few points. Not the same confidence and patience that we've seen so far in this matchup with Whitman.
And a little mistake there, overthrowing Wedmore. This time it's Sloss taking off deep. Stretching the field, she's coming back under now as the Sweets reset, and a pick called. Unlike basketball, you cannot set screens in Ultimate. Obviously, Ultimate a game of spacing, not just in terms of creating space, but in terms of avoiding violations to keep your flow and momentum moving. Big backhand. Marlena Sloss is there, and she's in. That's a break for the Sweets, who now lead it 11-5.
There is no stopping this offense on a turnover. It may take them a few throws to find the right lane, but they're ultimately going to find a way to rip it deep. And that nice IO shot to the break side was ultimately what opened up this throwing lane for Bailey. A perfect outside-in backhand. Sloss has no competition getting there. Wonderful break side huck. I think Whitman might have this one locked up, Evan.
It's been a jaw-dropping performance by the Sweets, who finished third at Northwest Regionals and are on the verge of being, at the very least, second here at Nationals. But with a win like this, they'll certainly head into tomorrow with a ton of confidence. And you're surprised by this, right? You didn't expect an 11-5 lopsided score, did you?
Definitely not. I would have expected UVA to be a bit more patient, to execute a bit better than they have so far. That being said, credit to Whitman's defense for making the UVA offense uncomfortable.
Virginia's made mistakes, there's no question about it. But I think the bigger story of the game is how well Whitman has played.
They've seized every opportunity they've had. And if I'm one of the Stanford or Oregon coaches, perhaps scouting just a bit ahead,
Hydra turnover.
And
this team is giving me headaches.
The stack continues to crumble for Virginia. First throw turnover. Lozano with possession. She started playing in 7th grade at Wilson Middle School.
You have to come in stalling. Coming in, stalling one.
She's coming in on 1.
She was in middle school. She was featured in a Disney Channel commercial. A connection through her coach. And she was talking about women being active, women in sports. You can watch part of that in her Callahan video, which is online. And again, Virginia.
I couldn't tell if Warner was looking for the deep shot to Makrish or the mid-range under for Meeker, and I think she probably just released that at a certain point of indecision herself.
Anyone who's played Ultimate has had games when things just aren't in sync. And you've also had games when everything works perfectly.
Couple of turnovers, but this back to Sweets.
And on any given day, you never know what you'll get.
I think you've got Whitman at one end of the spectrum and Virginia at the other end of the spectrum in this matchup right now.
Another shot to Meeker. She'll grab that one, 10 yards shy of the goal line. And a straddle of the end zone, so Virginia needs at least one more throw. And that will work.
Makrish to Warner. Warner, someone who's usually in the backfield, not necessarily making a bunch of noise downfield, but a great layout grab there. As the disc goes off Lozano's hands.
And a Hydra score.
Heads up blocked by Landis. She's ready to fast break here right after this turnover.
Virginia 6.
Meeker skying Sue. Very aggressive. Makrish on the goal line, waiting for her look to set up. And Warner, not a full 7-cut or S-cut, just kind of getting in position and making a firm plant to one side, laying out, perhaps sparking some life into this Hydra squad.
We shall see if the Atlantic Coast Regional Champs from 2016 can string together a little rally.
And you know, Evan, we were talking earlier about how perhaps this feels like a home game for Whitman given the weather and atmospheric conditions, but if you look at the stands, you've got a very strong UVA parent showing and other fans showing. Just a 3.5-hour drive here, Raleigh from Charlottesville. So they're doing everything they can to pump life into that Hydra squad.
It's getting a little brighter out there, almost as if the sun is trying to peek through. Not sure we'll see any sunshine today. We had plenty of it the past couple of days, and absolutely this Virginia team has grown over the past couple of seasons. You know, for years and years and years, it's been West Coast teams dominating the women's division, whether it's Oregon or Stanford or British Columbia or UCSB. You had to go back to Georgia in 2001 to find the last time an East Coast team won the women's division. And a couple years ago, Ohio State under Deanna Ball won the title, led by Cassie Swafford and Paige Soper, as Marlena Sloss wide open again in the end zone for the Sweets.
That's a tough matchup for anyone, and I think Kayla Strick was in fairly decent position when the throw went up. Need to get another look at this to see if this was in fact a break throw. Essentially no mark when that throw went up.
Yeah.
Sloss is going to take advantage of that spacing every time.
That's a risk of that junkie defense. Sometimes you don't get the mark set fast and make it easier on the thrower if you see an opening like that.
Absolutely.
Timeout of the second half.
So timeout called on the field. Not sure if it was called for by Whitman or Virginia. Looks like Whitman talking it over. You see McGinn providing the words of advice.
If I'm Whitman in this huddle, I'm telling my team that they are doing everything right, but now is not the time to take your foot off the gas. We don't coast here until the last and trade out the last 3 points. We win these last few points convincingly, giving ourselves even more confidence and momentum heading into tomorrow.
Well, we're 20 minutes away from the soft cap, and what that means when the soft cap goes off, you add 2 to the higher team score, and that's your new destination in terms of final total. Should not be a factor today, as the Sweets have scored almost at will.
Would be surprised to see Virginia mount that type of comeback in that short a time period. Should be very proud of what they've accomplished. Pool A was no slouch either.
No.
Oregon, obviously the defending national champions. First game on Friday, Virginia had a great matchup with Cal, and their Callahan nominee Marissa Rafter is well known for her defensive prowess.
The foot block specialist.
Indeed.
One of the great Callahan videos of the year, Marissa Rafter, who's a top 5 Callahan finisher. We'll find out later today who has won the Callahan Awards. We'll find out the men's Callahan winner in between the women's semifinals. Virginia trailing by 6. Winner of this game will face the winner of Oregon and Stanford tomorrow. The tournament began with 20 schools that qualified from all around the country. 4 pools of 5 teams each. The top 3 in each pool made the pre-quarters. You win your pool, you get a bye directly into the quarters. Both of these teams did that. And neither was favored to do so coming into the weekend. That disc deflected and falls to the ground incomplete. Never seen a national tournament like this before, Ian, with so many upsets. And in the men's and women's divisions, you had 8 pools. Only one of those pools was won by the team favored to win it at the start of the weekend, which is mind-boggling.
Absolutely, and if you look at the pre-quarterfinal matchups, every single male team that won a pre-quarter went on to win their quarterfinal.
Yeah, who needs rest?
Right?
Whitman with another steal. Lozano gives it right back, although there may be a foul on the mark.
I don't believe Tess Warner's contesting that one. Disc will probably go back to Lozano with no stall count.
Jeremy Norton, wet, but very pleased with the way his team has battled. A big theme throughout the season for Whitman has basically just been focusing on themselves. And has been a recipe for success, although that throw sails too far out of the reach of Timble. You know, one thing, Ian, that gave Whitman confidence coming into this weekend as the 5 seed is the fact that over the course of the season, they had beaten every team that was ranked ahead of them at least once. They had lost to them as well, but they knew that if they played their best, they were capable of beating anybody.
They had a lot of regular season success, at one point ranked #1 in the USA Ultimate rankings and according to UltiWorld.
Sure. They've looked like the #1 team today. A win over British Columbia this morning. And that D prevents the Sweets from stretching the lead to 7.
Great block by Warner. Just when you thought she might have been beaten. She's going to shoot deep here to Mockrish.
Whitman at midfield takes it back, and Finley uncorks a huge backhand, floating to the end zone, and it's caught.
Excellent body there by the Whitman receiver, not going up any earlier than she needed to, just keeps the Virginia defender on her back hip the entire time. Nina Finley with no fear, the quick strike capability on the turnover.
Lindsay Scott with another impressive score. Just an army of different receivers making an impact. And how about that throw from Finley?
Final time out of the second half.
Whitman is sure happy that she transferred from Ohio State at this point. A rock of that D-line offense. And that reception there, the Whitman receiver was giving up several inches in size to Kelly Ross. And she just kept her on her back hip the entire time. It's something that perhaps a younger receiver might not have known to do. They might have been tempted to jump a little earlier, but the more she's able to hold position, the less explosive or aerial work she has to do, and just let the disc fall down into her hands.
When you look to decide where you're going to college, you figure out what school will fit you. Nina Finley started at Ohio State, then transferred to Whitman. Perhaps there aren't two more different types of schools in the country.
You've got a 40,000 person state school with arguably the most recognizable college football program in the country, and then one of the smallest liberal arts schools in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, Whitman has not played in the Rose Bowl recently. And yet they're 2 scores away from being on the national stage for the Division I Ultimate Championship here in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah, the women's ultimate program should be that school's claim to fame. This is their 4th year in a row here at the college championships.
Well, the similarities to Carleton, another small liberal arts school in a non-tropical location, you might say. The Carleton program in Northfield, Minnesota, has really set the standard for the small schools that could be Division III in battle for a Division III title, but choose to compete at the highest level. and not just compete, but obviously Carleton has won championships in men's and women's and are always a factor.
And I think that's the main difference between these programs right now is Carleton has the history and the pedigree.
Well,
the exciting thing for Whitman is right now they are building that tradition. They are making that history for future generations to build on.
So Virginia trails by 7. Incredible, in a day that was supposed to be a total washout, the sun has emerged here at the WRAL Soccer Park.
Careful, Evan. You acknowledge it might go hiding on us in the next 30 seconds.
Seems reasonable based on the forecast.
Nice.
Meeker slips it through.
Nice throw there by Meeker. A 3/4 or high release to that inside lane. Very comfortable with those differing release points.
This Virginia team has taken another step in terms of their program, falling short of the semis last year with some non-ultimate factors getting involved. The team-wide illness that really was food poisoning or a virus. No one really knows. They've tried to be very specific with their detective work, but they still have not confirmed it. Oh, and there's a tremendous D in the end zone. Incredible size from Whitman there.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you do the best you can to keep a defender on your back, but when you're giving up that much size, as Mockrish was, there's only so much you can do to come down with the disc.
And that's Kalia Ackert. Watching that play, you can imagine her spiking a volleyball, couldn't you?
Easily, easily.
She was on the Whitman volleyball team for a time. And it's hard to believe you go from Division III volleyball to being on the verge of a Division I national championship.
And I wonder if that's what's more rewarding and motivating for a player like that.
Acker hauls in over the fingertips of Meeker, and Meeker's got the steps, but Acker's got the speed. 50-50, tipped and caught, but out of bounds. Oh, what a marvel it was to watch Kalia Acker pursue that disc.
Meeker, with no fear herself, has both got their hands on it at one point. Acker actually caught it, but out of bounds. Meeker doing a great job holding position as long as she could within the field of play. Wedmore's going to call a foul there.
Said no contest. Okay, just going to pick it up. Coming on one.
No contest.
Lady, when you're ready.
Observer Hank Carey clarifying everything to the rest of the field for us. And another turnover for the Virginia offense.
The Sweets unable to convert. One of the few shots to Sloss that hasn't worked out.
Yeah, Tess Warner, a little bit of a size advantage there on Sloss, I think, working in her favor. Warner's going to shoot deep. Mockrish versus Finley.
Hauled in there by Janie Mockrish. And that's been the story for Virginia all afternoon long so far.
There's an old adage in Frisbee, conservation of greatness. After you make one play, try and control your emotions and make the smart next play without costing your team when your adrenaline is all hyped up. And I think Mockrish just kind of was eager to get that disc moving again and threw it just a bit too far for Strick. Finley was motioning there for Acker to go deep, even though Meeker was standing multiple yards behind her. She just wants to rip that. And I can't blame her. That's a high percentage matchup. Even if it's not a great throw, if it just floats, Acker's going to come down with that 8 or 9 times out of 10.
Oh, nice layout there to keep it alive. Brenna Bailey had the angle upfield closed off, so she went diagonal across the field.
That's a great zone breaking throw.
Again, seeking Acker, and it's Meeker doing her work as the deep.
Meeker with a takeaway.
That's what Meeker's been doing all weekend long, taking on matchups where she's giving up size and performing well. If I'm the Whitman thrower, hang that throw a little bit more on the shelf. It doesn't need to hit her perfectly in stride. Just give Acker a chance to use her size. Strick shoots deep there, and Makrish goes backside after Landis is able to body the two Whitman receivers out. A long point there, but Virginia emerges.
So Virginia able to convert. Probably the longest point of the game, wouldn't you say?
So far, without question. Nice job by Makrish following the play. I'm not sure Landis was definitely attempting to make a play, but I'm not sure she realized in the moment just how good a job she was doing bodying out both of those Whitman defenders.
All right, there we go. Whitman 13, Virginia 7.
So Kayla Strick has been involved on 5 of the 7 Virginia scores. Illustrates her importance to the team.
And she'll be back next year. A junior focusing on kinesiology.
And a lot of seniors on this team. Some of them, like Brogan Jones, a captain, expected to return for a 5th year. Some of them will move on.
A lot to be proud of here. Dave Allison has obviously instilled a ton of institutional knowledge across several classes. You know, they were constantly building with the help of Alika Johnston and Sarah Hansen, and now that they've moved on, a new crop has taken center stage for this team, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them at the championships and in the national conversation next year.
They won the regional title this year, once again after winning it in 2012.
Lozano shoots deep. That's one of the Sioux twins all alone.
Gorgeous pass, and the Sweets are within 1 point of the title game.
Lene Sioux loves that end zone. We saw her layout grab in the first half there on that deep shot. And this time Lozano just sees her all alone. Nothing but time for Sioux to reel that one in despite the pursuit of 2 UVA defenders.
Fair to say, with the defense that Virginia's playing, that throw's not supposed to happen just like that?
Absolutely fair. I think a throw like that is something you want to hang up there for Acker.
Sure.
Something to Sioux, you want a little more on a rope for her to run onto. That being said,
through and over the defense regardless. Into the grasp of Linnea Sioux. 5'4" Seattle native. Couple spectacular scores for her, and now the Sweets can look to break to clinch a spot on championship Monday.
Looking ahead to their opponents, we've got that powerful Stanford and Oregon matchup that we're surprised is happening in the semifinals and not the finals, and that's because this Virginia team knocked off Oregon in pool play. Stanford has been untested all weekend, and Oregon is really hitting their stride. They had a convincing win over UCLA in the quarters this morning.
So Virginia has a very steep climb here. Whitman continues this junky defense. And Virginia crosses midfield. And launches. Looking for Strick. She's got it.
What a shot from Kelly Ross. That was something that most throwers might throw as an outside-in flick with their right hand, but she saw the mark closing in, realized she had to get it off quickly, and just yanked an inside-out backhand across her body to get that to the end zone for Strick.
Well, Kayla Strick only stands 5'5", but she plays bigger than that.
The 6th goal she's involved in today.
6 out of the 8 have been either caught or thrown by Kayla Strick. And a nice toss there from Kelly Ross.
Yeah, Ross is someone who has gotten a bit more playing time on this UVA roster than initially expected. Laura Landis, a more primary, prominent handler on that roster, was battling an ankle injury for some parts of this spring. And Ross has stepped up with confidence for Hydra.
Virginia needs to break 6 times in a row here to prevent Whitman from winning. You see Revere, Sloss, Adams, Heffron among the O-line performers there, Hardesty as well. And there's Revere already across midfield.
I feel like we've seen her on that sideline several times this game, and you never know if she's just going to break the marker, rip it deep.
A big flick. Meeker couldn't get it, but neither could Revere.
I wonder if Meeker got a small fingertip on that before it went into Revere's breadbasket.
Hard to tell from our vantage point, but it certainly looked like it was possible. Here we'll see.
I don't know. I think Meeker missed it, and Revere just couldn't haul that one in. Started to close her hands too quickly.
Deep shot connected on by Virginia Mockrish. And now another shot toward the end zone, and a great stab by Strick. And an injury on the play.
Take your time.
That's Brenna Bailey.
Well, from the Whitman perspective, certainly don't want to see any injuries with the title game on tap tomorrow.
Oh, and that left ankle looks like it bore significant weight as she started to come to the ground, and I think she already has an ankle brace on there. Hard to see from our angle.
Remember last year when we saw Jesse Schaffner go down in the semifinals and
Oregon's heart stopped?
The big story, we were wondering whether she would play. I think if there's a 1% chance that Bailey will be able to play, she'll give it a go.
Great catch by Strick.
Hope she's all right. Virginia looking for its first break of the game here. And there it is.
Brogan Jones to Janie Mockrish.
Hydra not done yet.
Classic textbook dump swing offense. Opening up that space on the open side. Good patience. That's the offensive system that Hydra is known for.
So Virginia finally gets a break and a timeout called.
Timeout on the field. Whitman takes their second and final timeout of the second half. No timeouts available out there.
If we turn it, we win the transition on her hip. That doesn't mean we give her a deep shot. It means that we're on
Whitman
her
took
hip
the
when she goes
timeout,
deep.
and it is
Right
the
there.
final timeout of the game for the Sweets. Jeremy Norden providing the words of encouragement as the O-line will return to the field to try to close it out.
So looking ahead to our next women's semifinal between Stanford and Oregon, I think both teams match up fairly well athletically. I think Oregon might have slightly better disc skills, and that might give them some confidence especially if conditions turn a bit more adverse than they are now. I think this is a treat for these teams, getting a little respite from the moisture and perhaps a little bit of sunlight. But I'll be interested to see what things are like at game time. First pull for Stanford and Oregon.
2:30 Eastern Time, the opening pull for Superfly and Fugue. And then later today in the men's semifinals, Harvard, North Carolina, and Pittsburgh versus Minnesota. You see the 7 on the line for the Sweets.
Did go on during the last point. Should Virginia come back to tie Whitman at 14, we'll play a game to 16.
So not sure if the viewers at home were able to pick up the stadium announcement. The soft cap horn did go off, so if Virginia scores this point and is somehow able to march a larger comeback, the game will be played to 16. Revere with a nice throw through the zone.
Acker's going deep. Looked off by Sloss.
No big Kelly!
Heffron to Lozano. Heffron underneath Revere. Looking for the win. Marlena Sloss can't make the play. It was knocked away by Virginia's Tess Warner to keep Hydra alive.
And she's had a couple deep blocks or aerial blocks for her team up at this end zone in this half, using her size well, peeling off of her primary responsibility to make the play for her team. She's not done yet.
Out of the reach of Meeker. Another chance for the Sweets.
Finley picking up the disc. Wouldn't be surprised to see her take a shot to the end zone right away if possible.
To Lozano. Picozzi. And Lozano had it fall through her grasp.
And that's a deep shot right away to Mockrish.
And she will fall shy of the disc.
Uncharacteristic shot from the UVA offense there. I think they're starting to take some more chances.
You're on ESPN, you want to make some plays.
They're ready to make an appearance on Top 10.
Can Whitman close it out here?
Finley motioning for a little more activity in the middle of the field. All of her cutters are very deep behind this junky set and wall. Offside handler defenders really sagging into the throwing lanes here. And that's the kind of throw that that zone can force, hanging perhaps a bit more than the thrower had wanted.
Been very impressed, though, by Whitman's precision on its throws this game, and what speed to run that one down. Acker just shy of the goal line. Dumps it off to Finley. To Lozano for the score. The Whitman Sweets are headed to the championship game here at Nationals.
I don't think there was ever any doubt in this Sweets team's mind from before the opening pull that they were going to win this game. Just a masterful, confident, intense, decisive performance from their defense.
Great game, ladies. Thanks a lot. Congratulations.
And they have more than earned their spot in the national championship game tomorrow afternoon.
It was Heffron to Sloss, who found Acker. The deep cutter. Where's my handler? Oh, there's Nina Finley. She'll throw the winning score, and their Callahan nominee, Ari Lozano, with a clincher. As the Sweets go to the Division I national title game for their first time in school history. From Walla Walla, Washington, Whitman will battle either Stanford or Oregon tomorrow to try to win a championship. So the Atlantic Coast Regional champs make it all the way to the semis but fall short. Ari Lozano leads Whitman into the championship game here at Nationals. The 2016 USA Ultimate College Championships are presented by Discraft Ultrastar, the official disc of USA Ultimate. Discraft Ultrastar now available at over 1,900 U.S. retail locations, including all Dick's Sporting Goods and Hibbett stores. Buy 5 Ultimate, apparel made specifically for Ultimate players by Ultimate players. Visit 5ultimate.com for everything from Discraft Ultrastars to jerseys, shorts, and custom team uniforms. And buy USA Ultimate, the national governing body for the sport of Ultimate in the United States. For more information or to find out where to play in your area, visit usaultimate.org. The Whitman Sweets are headed to the championship game, and plays like this were the reason why. Our Discraft play of the game, Linnea Sue from Claire Revere.
Claire Revere, someone who is no stranger to this spotlight, helping her team on both sides of the disc, and this was a crucial play for their offense in the first half. A fearless deep shot up the break side to Linnea Sue. Fantastic catch, and Whitman wins.
That made it 7-3. They took half 8-4 and won 15-9. Jeremy Norden, you are a coach of a team that's playing on Monday at College Nationals. How does it feel?
Feels great. We've been preparing for that. We've been working so hard for 4 years trying to get to this game, and we earned ourselves another day of the season, and it's been so fun to see how hard the team has worked in the month of May, which is kind of all the bonus time we have after regionals. And for the last 4 years, having the seniors get to play their last game, having gone to nationals every year they've been in college, getting to play in the national championship final tomorrow is the best thing we could ask for.
Jeremy, with the exception of the Central Florida game, it seems like every game so far this tournament, you've been able to come out to a hot start and really keep your foot on the gas pedal. Give yourself that multiple break advantage. What's been the secret to getting the team ready and able to go from the opening pull?
You know, I think it's all kind of starts with the warm-up. It's how you approach the day, how you prepare. We have a kind of a set core of drills that we like to do. We like to stay loose because, again, we play better when we're having fun, and whatever we can do to make the atmosphere a little bit of light, even when there is the pressure of a big elimination game. We've been able to do that in the rain. We've been able to do that when it's a little misty, so we'll do that again tomorrow.
Jeremy, just a few years ago, you were deciding whether to go to Division I regionals or Division III regionals. How has this program grown from that decision?
You know, I think once you decide you're going D1, there's sort of no looking back for a while, because once you make it, you're stuck for 4 years. So we're really happy that we made the decision to go D1, and I believe it was 2013 was the first year, and that was when these senior captains were first years on the team. And since we made that D1 Nationals, there was really never a conversation of shifting back, and we actually were really excited this year to have a D3 team at Whitman. So there's tons of opportunities to play Ultimate at Whitman on the D1 program and the D3 program, and I see us coming back here and battling, hopefully year after year for many, many years to come.
Well, enjoy the Stanford-Oregon game, and good luck getting ready for tomorrow. We can't wait for it.
Thanks, Evan.
Jeremy Norden, the head coach of the Whitman Sweets. And the 5 Ultimate spirited player of the game is Claire Revere. She'll join us momentarily. Ian, she got it started with the D on the first point to set the tone.
She was unstoppable this game, whether you asked her to throw the disc deep, break the mark, get a block downfield, take off and make a diving grab. She did everything.
Revere, just a junior, leading her team into the title game at Nationals. She's the 5 Ultimate spirited player of the game. Claire, congratulations on this performance. What did it mean to you to be out there with your teammates on this stage?
It meant a lot. We earned ourselves another game in the quarterfinals this morning, and it was really, really exciting to get to have a chance to play semifinals and now finals.
Claire, you've got a lot of experience having played on bigger stages with Seattle Mixtape, with some Team USA teams. Talk about your mindset heading into this game and perhaps how some of that experience might have helped you calm yourself on this stage.
I definitely have been in some high-pressure games before, but it's a whole nother team, and playing in the college division is different. So honestly, I was really nervous before this game, and I'm not sure how much those games helped.
Claire, tomorrow you'll play either Stanford or Oregon to try to win a national championship. What will you plan for each of those teams that's a little bit different?
We're going to try to keep the focus on us, so we'll probably talk about a few key matchups, but mostly about our game plan and how we're going to execute what we've been working towards all season and just get out there and play our own game.
Did you know Linnea Sue was going to run that one down?
I was sure hoping. We are race cars, not pogo sticks, we like to say, so yeah.
Very good. You guys raced beautifully today. Congratulations on the win. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. That's
Claire Revere, a USA international champion, and now trying to become a college national champion, just a junior. The Sweets, the 5 seed coming in, are on to the championship game. They'll face the winner of Stanford Superfly and Oregon Fugue, a heavyweight matchup coming up in our second semifinal. For Ian Toner, this is Evan Lepler saying so long from the WRAL Soccer Park in Raleigh, North Carolina. Again, the final score, Whitman 15, Virginia 9. To watch this entire game on replay, log on to watchespn.com or download the Watch ESPN app. We thank you so much for watching. This has been a presentation of ESPN.